let's get this thing kicked off. Let's have some fun today. I am joining you guys, everybody. My name is Ted Roller. I am channel chief with Zomentum, and you are joining the inaugural Yell at Each Other, Have Some Fun, and Talk About Unstoppable Growth webinar with Zomentum. Al, Woody, you guys can join anytime you want. Come on in. Welcome everyone. Really glad to see you all here. Very excited about this opportunity. But let's start out with just some quick introductions. Al Alper, CyberGuard 360. This is always mouthful. Can't ever get that out right. Never say it right the first time. Introduce yourself. Tell us about both your MSP and CyberGuard and what you're focused on these days.
How much time do we have on the webinar?
Yeah, exactly. You have 3 minutes to introduce yourself, no more.
Sure. So Al Alper, the MSP, it all started in a 5,000 watt radio station. Come on, anybody know what that's from? Nobody? Mary Tyler Moore Show? No? Okay, you people are killing me. Anyway, clearly I'm older, as you can tell by the gray in my beard, but I look at 10, I'm thinking we should probably be the same age. Anyway, that notwithstanding. So my MSP is Absolute Logic. I do still own that. I don't run that business anymore. We've been around. That company's been around since '91. And so it's long in the tooth, so to speak. It was actually it was the precursor to CyberGuard, and some of the things we did in that business is what created CyberGuard. Was the genesis for CyberGuard 360. Our focus primarily is in the financial services, healthcare, and legal spaces. But we've got clients in 40 different industries and 30 plus states. So it's a pretty decent sized MSP. In 2019, we launched CyberGuard 360. That's a cybersecurity and compliance SaaS-based platform exclusively for the channel. MSPs, obviously Absolute Logic was the first MSP to use the platform. And now we're probably the leader in the space in a number of different modules that we offer. So for instance, dark web monitoring, simulated phishing, risk assessments, policy and procedure management, penetration test, vulnerability assessments, and a variety of other tools that our platform does. And a number of those modules were arguably a leader in the space.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Woody, you're we all hear Al talk at ASCII events and various other events and so on and so forth. You've been in the industry as an MSP for over 30 years, if I have it correct. Tell us a little bit about your MSP and your experience and where you're headed next.
So I started out as a tech rep for Packard Bell NEC, the old pizza box 486s. I got Al's attention with that. In 1998, actually, we just turned 26. In 1998, February 16th, I started Mouse Calls, and it was born out of my experience working in retail stores like CompUSA and Computer City, the big ones at the time. I would be working, training up the staff and management on our new offerings and so forth, and people would walk in wanting websites done and needing a computer fixed and wanting business IT support, and they just had nowhere to go, and these stores were not equipped to offer anything like that. And so I saw an opening and just hung out a shingle, and it grew like wildfire. Within 5 years, we had serviced about 500 clients. And I waited too long to hire. I made every mistake a tech that's starting a business could make. Boy, did I put my foot in it. But we got some real momentum and did well, and ended up spinning another company off of it, which I was a part of for 5.5 years until turning my attention back to Mouse Calls, which was my first true passion. And here we are today. As of next year, I realized after our birthday last week that next year it will be officially more than half my life that I've had this company. So you can do the math if you wish and figure out my age. But it's been a great ride. And honestly, I've been in that, I've been in every mental spot an MSP can be in, but I'm in a place right now where every day just gets better and better and better. I love what we're doing. I love what we're doing, and we've never done it better. So there you have it.
Awesome. Woody, thank you. So just to set the table here a little bit, the industry moves in waves, and I think we have all seen over the last 3 years, Al's definitely seen it. The wave of the last 3 or 4 years has been around security and protecting MSP clients. Like that's been the focus. A lot of MSPs looked up and said, I really don't know how to do this. The tools aren't in place. The threats are bigger than ever. That's a focus. And I think over the last 4 years, the industry, both on the vendor side and the MSP side, have responded incredibly well to the security threats, have done a lot of really good work associated with creating the infrastructure necessary to protect our customers and gone down the road. I think as the other thing that's happened is a lot of investment in the space. There are a lot of MSPs who are actually getting investment in order to grow and accelerate their business. Certainly the vendor space has gotten more investment from the PE and VC firms than ever before. We've got situations with roll-ups across the MSP space. And actually, one of the really cool things that I see in the industry is people are starting to evaluate the worth of MSPs as multiples of revenue, not huge multiples of revenue yet, but multiples of revenue as opposed to an EBITDA conversation. All of those things are super exciting. So I see the industry moving from the security conversation, which is still important and central and key to delivering value, but I think the focus is becoming all around growth. I think it's how do you make your business bigger, stronger, faster? Every MSP I know has been working on building a stack that makes sense for a long time. So now taking that stack out and not being the best kept secret in your market, not being the company that nobody knows about, getting out there and figuring out how to grow your business both within your existing customer base, but more importantly, outside of your customer base and with your prospects. So Al, I know that you've used Zomentum in particular to drive revenue in the past. I've heard some stories about this, but share with the audience some of the examples of how you've been super creative with Zomentum to drive CyberGuard or Absolute or, you know, whatever you want to talk about. Open conversation. Let's dig in. No, I didn't.
So first, I was just about to go there.
I know.
But I do want to touch on something that you said, because I completely agree on it, but I think they're also interrelated. That the conversation, at least relative to the coffee table conversation with MSPs, and where the focus predominantly was on what's your tool set look like, what areas are you focused on, and things like that, have shifted away from that to what's your top line look like, because that roll up in the MSP space has been I've noticed accelerating over the last 18 plus months. And you're right, they've been pegging more towards top line revenue, though they still drill into EBITDA. So I don't want to in any way, shape, or form. What they'll do is they will undervalue you if your EBITDA isn't strong, is what will happen. And so you'll have 1 or 2 multiples less on your top line revenue if your EBITDA is not, a healthy double-digit percentage above 10, right? And if you're not, then you're going to see multiples go down precipitously of top line revenue. So they're interrelated, one and all. The other thing I wanted to mention is that security is related to that, because a lot of MSPs, rightfully so, frankly, they spent the last several years building their security stack. I mean, certainly we've seen it on the CyberGuard side, as we've seen a lot of MSPs acclimate to our platform and away from our competitors. But also I see it on my MSP side, and that has helped drive significant revenue for Absolute Logic and in turn CyberGuard 360. So I agree with everything you said, but they're all interrelated to one another. Interestingly enough, so probably the story, I tell a lot of stories about the relationship we've had with the Zomentum. By the way, all of it good. So, I mean, 99% of it good. How's that? No vendor is perfect, except for CyberGuard, of course. But no vendor is perfect.
I have some CyberGuard stories I can dig into here at any moment.
No, you do not. Don't even go there. Remember, I'm in cybersecurity. I can attack you through the phone, through this computer right now.
That folks.
So this is on the MSP side of my life, which I think is germane for our audience, since I think I'm looking at this long list of attendees, and I know a good portion of them, and they're all MSPs. I mean, I would argue that most of the people, if not all of them, are MSPs. So on the MSP side of my life, I was doing a webinar several years ago. I still had gray hair, so it wasn't 100 years ago. But I was doing a webinar speaking about, and for those of you that don't know what we do in my MSP, one of our practices inside that business is cyber compliance. So we do cybersecurity, cyber compliance, traditional MSP services, things like that. And I was giving a webinar to an audience about cyber compliance. And this is an audience through a relationship we had with one of our associations. And so we did our own promotion, obviously, and they did their own promotion. We ended up with almost 100 registrants. There's 90 plus registrants for this particular webinar. And the funny thing is that I was at a different event entirely. I had just finished presenting at that event. Then while somebody else was on stage talking, I went into a side room and then I give this webinar. So I'm like literally doing this thing in between obviously me being in the front of the room at another event. So anyway, I kick off the event. We had 90 plus registrations and 84 people actually attend this event. First of all, that's a huge number, both as a percentage of registrants that show up, but also just in terms of a webinar. If anybody's given a webinar in the past, except during COVID, you know that anything above 30 to 50 attendees is a huge attendance rate. And so 84 people show up, and I start the webinar off basically saying, stick around. I've got a special offer for everybody. We're going to be basically giving away a $2,000 penetration test for 600 or whatever the number is. It doesn't particularly matter. Obviously using CyberGuard's tools, because we're, obviously it's my company also, but it's also a great platform. And so I'm giving this webinar off, and my cell phone right here is sitting next to me on the side, because I'm on it like I'm on it now talking at this webinar. And about 10 minutes into this webinar, and my cell phone, a text message comes in. And while I'm talking just like this, I look down, much like you're seeing me do now, and it says 3. Okay, 3. I don't know what the hell that means. I keep talking, I'm going, goes off again, it says 5. It goes off again, it says 7. Goes off again, it says 13. It goes off again, it says 20-something. So this is going on for like many minutes as I'm giving this webinar. About 10 minutes into this, and for those of you that are sensitive in the ears, I apologize. Please bleep this out. But the next message is, what the fuck are you saying up there? And of course, I start laughing in the middle of my webinar. I just turn the phone over and I roll on with the webinar for another 20 to 25 minutes, and we wrap it up. By the way, nobody left. Like, we didn't have any drop off in attendance. So 84 people showed up and 84 people stayed to the very end. Also extraordinarily unusual. You know this, Ted. You know this, Alan. Like, to have complete attendance through and through is unusual, and it's not because of my stunning good looks.
No,
or my amazing personality.
We've already lost like 84 on this webinar just listening to you. So.
That's what happens when I natter on. See, I should have offered a special offer, and they all were the same. So webinar ends. I called my office because it was one of my inside sales guys, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" He goes, "Do you know how much money we just made?" I'm like, "I have no idea. What the hell are you talking about?" He said, 52 people purchased the penetration test. We made almost $60,000 while you were giving the webinar. Like, what? How's that even? And so it's all true, by the way. We ended up selling 2 more penetration tests on our follow-up campaign following the webinar. But the way we were able to do this, and this is directly because of Zomentum, by the way. So I'm saying all this as my lead into Zomentum, right? So we use a credit card processor whose name I won't mention, because this is not their webinar. I would name it. So we use a credit card processor. Zomentum allows us to connect with that credit card processor. They also allow you to have templates for proposals. And by the way, CyberGuard has a proposal template in there if you want to use it. And we'll talk about that. And so my guy, as people are, so you basically had a QR code at the beginning that you scanned and you landed on one of the landing pages on my website that you filled out that basically opened up a proposal in Zomentum. And all my inside sales guy had to do was click send, because we had the format of the email they would get, the template was pre-filled, everything was done. And all he literally had to do is hit send, but it also required payment to complete the transaction. And Zomentum allowed us to connect with our credit card processor. So literally while I'm giving the webinar, these guys are going to the landing page, filling out the form. He's getting the email. He's hitting send in Zomentum. They're clicking pay. I'm getting paid. All of this happened while I'm giving a less than 40-minute webinar. We made almost $60,000. And I can tell you, I've used other quoting tools. I would not have been able to do that with others. Now, maybe that's possible today, but I can tell you at the time I couldn't have. And I attribute all well worth the money I've given Zomentum from inception through now.
Yeah, so for everybody here, if you're using CyberGuard 360 or Zomentum, or hopefully both, this is the opportunity to get on stage, to get onto webinars, to get out there in front of your prospects and drive instantaneous revenue opportunities while you're on stage making a difference. Trust me, your customers, your prospects want to hear about value propositions that solve problems for them. Not all of us love being on stage, present company accepted, but there's an opportunity to go to guns with revenue immediately with Zomentum and CyberGuard. And CyberGuard's information about the products and so on and so forth are already in Zomentum, so you have those tools available to you too. Great way to go to market, make money, and tear into it. So gonna shift
Let me
gears.
continue that thread for a moment, if you don't mind. Sorry, Alan, I know this is your time. But so like and this comes from my own experience at MSP, one of the biggest reasons we would lose a sale is because the time to close, right? I mean, people walk through your front door when they're ready to buy something. You just got to give them a reason to buy and then not create a barrier to pay.
True.
And
Absolutely.
and more times than not, fine, I'll get you a proposal. And then because you get busy as an MSP, because your inside sales person is in the bathroom for too long, whatever the case may be, the proposal doesn't go out right away, and there's no easy way for them to pay. And before you know it, the sense of urgency that brought them through the front door has dissipated, and you've lost that business opportunity. You don't lose them all, but you definitely lose more than one.
Yeah.
And this is a demonstration of how you don't have to lose any, frankly.
Yeah, people want to take action when they're excited about the opportunity. They lose focus on it. Nobody gets real excited about, oh, good, I solved a penetration testing issue that I had, except in the moment. So take advantage of that. And it doesn't have to be around a webinar. It can be around a million different things, but you have the ability to take people's money immediately and go down the road and be successful that way. Take advantage of it. It's absolutely valuable. So Woody, we're almost done with the webinar. Just kidding. But it's a great story, Alan. I really appreciate you telling it. I get goosebumps every time I think about how much money that means for MSPs on the day-to-day walk of life. But so you recently used some new Zomentum features to gain some real efficiencies. And I happened to be around when Woody was like, let me just tell a little bit of this story because it's kind of entertaining. Shruti, the CEO of Zomentum.
Children on this webinar, so be careful.
Yeah, you've already cussed, and I haven't yet, which is amazing. But nevertheless, Shruti was in town, actually in Phoenix, and we were meeting about some stuff. And Woody just happened to be there. We were all at the same event, Won't go into which event, but they're not sponsors here either. But we're all at an event, and Woody's talking to Shruti about the things that he doesn't like about Zomentum. And it was awesome. It was like, I don't like this, I don't like this. And Shruti looked at him and said, yeah, we do both of those things. And the look on Woody's face, you want to see somebody go from confident to looking stupid in about 30 seconds or less. Long story short, sometimes the products that you are working with are actually better than you think they are. They're actually, change happens fast in this industry. Let's face it, it's always been the case. But the SaaS vendors are out there listening to you, and Zomentum's really good at listening to the MSPs and working through things that rise to the level of many people are asking us. Woody, tell that story from your perspective, not from mine, obviously.
Well, no, it pretty much started out exactly like you said. And I'm just like every other MSP. We're a little bit busy these days. And I don't spend my time during the day going through our stack looking for details or features that might have been added that I haven't noticed yet. Well, Shruti educated me up real quick in like a sentence that, yes, we do that. Yes, it has that. And I had told her that these would be game changers if Zomentum could add them, and finding out that they're already there was sort of a very pleasant revelation. The way that we've been, we had a meeting in here about it yesterday. But one of the things that we're going to be doing is hiring my business partner's 17-year-old daughter to help us do client outreach and schedule reviews and so forth. And she's also going to be promoting some things in her own way. And she's going to use Zomentum because it's that freaking straightforward and easy for her to use. Kind of to Al's point, but in a different way. I have no qualms about rolling it out and letting her drive it a little bit. There's no issue there. The interface is great. And like he said, it's very straightforward. You bring up the template, you fire it away, they sign it, and you're pretty much done at that point from the sales point of view.
So before we lose the train of thought, Woody, what were the things you didn't like about Zomentum? What did it allow you to do? You didn't realize.
So we've been using it for probably 2 years. Okay. And we had the integration with D&H, our distributor, and that's great. But a lot of times we can't get what we want from D&H, and guess where you end up looking? Amazon. I'm hitting a lot of bells with a lot of people right now. Sometimes you quote from Amazon because everything is there in one form or fashion. And we had talked often in here, like, how freaking great would it be if Zomentum integrated with Amazon? How awesome would that be? Because it'll pull the description, it'll pull a picture straight into the quote. And right now we'd have to copy and paste, do all of that manually into the PSA and send a quote. And that was a royal pain. Teaching our staff how to mark something up, how to do these quotes, and all, it just kind of wasn't worth it. And so we would do a lot of that ourselves. If my tech Nathan would say, hey, so and so needs a quote for two workstations in that building, then I'd say, well, just give me the ticket or give Cheryl the ticket, because we know what we're doing, we can knock it out quick. And with Zomentum being able to basically pull that, I always thought that would be a total game changer. So I told Shruti, I'm sitting across the table, and I said, if it integrated with Amazon, that would be just like the penultimate feature. And I just got this sort of blank look. Well, yeah, we do that. And okay. And then on the flip side, she was talking about the Zomentum payments, which we do not use or have not used up to this point. And she said, why haven't you explored it? And I said, well, that's a freaking pain point, minefield. I have one of the biggest mistakes that I made early on with my MSP was changing merchant account providers, and there was no integration with QuickBooks. And within 4 months, it was out of control. I couldn't reconcile anything. Well, the way she described it sounded too good to be true again. And so we started diving in after I returned to Nashville. And sure enough, the payments, we don't have to roll it out at once. We can do it on the client level, so we can stagger it. And I don't know how to tell you, I wish Cheryl was here because she could back me up. I don't know how many times over the years we've had clients ask to do ACH. And through our PSA, there's no good native solution to do that. Well, now we can do it. Not only can we do it, we can, when we change our plans, and this is part of the grander vision for this coming year, when we change our plans and put our new offerings out there, we're going to have discounted rates for people that do ACH. So not only are we going to raise our prices across the board, but we're going to create the illusion of a discount, forgive me, and we couldn't do that before, or we'd have to jump through absolute hoops to do that before. So this is, I mean, it's that proverbial breath of fresh air out of one product. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say it because I'm on this webinar. I mean, these two components not only are going to allow me to basically go to the staff and say, hey, we're going to have a 1 hour Zomentum training session on how you can do a quote, because it's going to do the markup for you. It'll do all of that. We don't have to worry about it. You pop and go. And that takes that off of me. And that takes that off of my business partner. And then the ability to both accept ACH, raise our prices, lower our credit card fees. Where do you see a downside in that? So I'm freaking excited.
Awesome. So I want to point out, that's Woody asking two questions about two pain points that he had that he did not think or understand that Zomentum did. And it was, 100% hit rate, two things that Zomentum actually does. I suspect for everybody in the audience who's a Zomentum user today, there are probably some things you wish it did. Al was like, wait, we can do Amazon? You guys saw it in the chat. And Fred, to answer your question, we do integrate with with ConnectWise PSA. So we'll check that box. I don't know about the moving templates over. I'm guessing that we can. One of these guys may be able to answer it. I can definitely get that answer for you post webinar. But thanks for asking. All right, moving forward, Al, this is your very brief opportunity. Woody and I were talking before the webinar about how Mouse Calls isn't a current client of CyberGuard. And I said, well, obviously, that's an opportunity for Al to tell you and everybody else why you should be. Al, you have 2 minutes, and I will cut you off. I'll kick you off the webinar if you go long on this one. This is a webinar, but I'm going to give you the opportunity. Give us 2 minutes about why CyberGuard makes a difference for MSPs, and please focus on where growth comes from, because that's what this webinar is really about.
100%. So probably the biggest draw. So CyberGuard, we consolidate your cybersecurity and compliance stack into one platform, that elusive single pane of glass. I know a lot of vendors claim that. But our platform was designed from the ground up to support the MSPs, obviously because it was supporting my MSP. It was designed from the ground up to support MSPs in executing their cybersecurity and cyber compliance strategy for their clients and their prospects. So all the tools that we built into the platform, whether it's our dark web monitoring, our simulated phishing, our risk assessments, our policy and procedure management, which to me personally is our rock star. I know that most of our MSP partners use our dark web monitoring and simulated phishing, our penetration tests, our vulnerability assessments, and all of our other tools. It all works together through a single pane of glass and allows our partners to deploy these tools quite literally in minutes. So let me give you an example with simulated phishing and how this helps to drive revenue, by the way. Because it doesn't just help drive revenue, it helps increase profits. Because I would rather have 20% of $500,000 than 1% of a $10 million account. Because you're diversifying your exposure and therefore, anyway, yes, I know you're cutting me off. So you can literally deploy simulated phishing as an example to one, some, or all of your clients in under 5 minutes and set up a year's worth of simulating phishing campaigns in the process. You quite literally, you can't do that with any other platform, frankly, and I know this because I know the other platforms. And because we built it, and originally our platform, our simulated fishing platform, which my dev team thought was a rock star because you could design your own templates and you can do all of these beautiful dev things, nobody used it. It was just too much work. So we completely transformed it with what we call the easy button. It's a 1, 2, 3 process. Quite literally 3 screens, 20 mouse clicks, and you've deployed it to all of your clients, some of your clients, or one of your clients. That capability allows you to drive out simulated phishing campaigns and upsell them at high margin because your engineers don't even have to do it. Your account managers can do it. And if you can deploy to all of your clients in under 10 minutes, your cost of managing that platform is in the pennies, not in the dollars. And that allows you to make a lot more money with our platform. You can't do that with other, and that's the way all of our tools work, by the way.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Only 4 minutes.
2 minutes?
I divided by 2 when I gave you your time allotment because there was no chance on earth that was going to happen. So Woody, I know you work, and for those of you who don't realize this, Woody's in Nashville, and Mouse Calls has a significant number of one-person clients. They're business clients. They're not home users per se. They're, what do you call them? You have a name for them?
Prosumers.
Prosumers. There are a lot of musicians and lots of self-employed 1 or 2 man shops in Nashville. I mean, it's just littered with them. And I don't mean to make that sound like it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. But Woody's built a significant managed services revenue piece off of working with that group, and they have a different security posture requirement. Woody, I know that you have rolled out this product called Uncompromised that you to a lot of your customers in 30 seconds or less. Tell us what that does, because I thought that we were talking about that before the webinar as well, and I thought that was really interesting.
It is identity theft protection, dark web monitoring, and internet privacy on the human level. It's a LifeLock style service with additional capabilities built in that will scour the internet, the public internet, as well as the dark web for your information, alert you to dark web stuff, and remove the public stuff, scrub it on your behalf from data broker sites and public record sites.
So I can see how a lot of MSPs would love that in their customer bases, because let's face it, a lot of people have gone home. It's hard to secure them, et cetera, and so on. All right, we have a couple other questions from the audience that were aimed at me. I'm gonna throw them in here. Real quick, Al, what's the most significant thing you have done to manage the transition from MSP to vendor? That's obviously where you're living these days, is on the vendor side. What did you focus on there?
So I think probably the biggest challenge, was it challenge or what we're focused on? Just so I understand the question.
I mean, you know, you're going to answer whatever you want anyway. So
that's true, by the way. Not trying to be everything to everybody is probably the biggest challenge, right? I mean, we are exceptional at what we do. MSPs come at things with a mindset of, how do I solve all your problems, no matter what vertical you're in? As a vendor, you're in one vertical. You're in the channel. That's your vertical. There's no, all MSPs, no disrespect to MSPs out there, you know, with my previous life at MSP, but we all use the same tools, deliver the same services, look for the same engineers in the same pool of human resources. There's not a lot of delta between that community, and as a result of it, as a customer, excuse me. And so getting that, your mindset around, listen, we're very good at what we do. That's what we do for this community, and staying away from the tangential. That's probably been the biggest challenge. I think we've done it exceptionally well, thankfully, because I've got good business partners. We call our MSPs partners as well, but my business partners work every day deliberately to keep me focused on that.
You know, it's interesting on so many levels. It's absolutely true. And what's also absolutely true, at least in my experience, I'm at events 46 weeks a year. I see Al at a lot of events. I've seen him narrow his focus from all the things we could do to the things that we can actually help MSPs win with over the last 4 years. And it's been really fun to watch. But the MSPs who are looking at their own business, I was talking to an MSP, his name's Brian Hamilton, out of Texas. just yesterday at an event, no, 2 days ago. Anyway, and he was talking about how Focus has changed their business. How when they started shifting to their deliverable being their deliverable and not whatever their customer needed, that they started growing and growing really, really fast. He was really excited about it, and it was an epiphany. It happens on the vendor side all the time. Al's right. We all know who our customers are. You are our customers, and we want to help you. But when you focus on your customers and decide who your customers are as MSPs, you're going to start growing faster if you're not already doing it. Everybody that I've seen go down that road has won that way. So, Woody, we're going to wrap up with you. What are you going to do to grow mouse calls in 2024? What are your goals? And no numbers here, just percentages. I don't want to get into it. Al has a suggestion.
I want to replicate what we did in 2016, but better. And just the high point. We launched our first managed services offerings in 2008, and we didn't know what we were doing. But we had some traction. We did not get it right until 2016. And when we put our offerings out in late February of that year, that started a cycle where our overall revenue increased by 50% that year. Our recurring revenue after 2 years had increased, about 200%. And then we had a couple of like the building that we were in literally fell apart. We had a burst pipe and a lightning strike within 2 weeks of each other, and had to do a forced relocation. But and that kind of interrupted that flow. But now with Uncompromised, like what you're talking about, Ted, we're bundling that into a lot of those prosumer plans. I won't bore you with the history of it, but Mouse Calls is an anomaly. It always has been. We've always done the standard B2B MSP stuff, but we also took all the consumer traffic that we always had and converted as much of that into recurring revenue as we absolutely could. And I know a lot of people look sideways at consumer or residential stuff, but when it's recurring and it's resulting in thousands and thousands of dollars a month in income, then you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's my opinion. And what we're doing along the lines of security going forward are creating the bundles with unlimited help desk. Of course, they're total MSP bundles, backup, guaranteed antivirus, but also the identity theft protection and these things that we've discovered that people, as time goes on and people get more mature, they want that level of support in their homes. They want that level of support in their home offices. I had a client, he's still a client. I remember back in 2005, he wanted to buy a computer for his home office, and he bought two. Every time he would replace a computer, he would buy two. Why? So if one went wrong with the main one, he could cannibalize parts from the other one and keep going with minimal downtime. And that was crazy back then. I thought, I want clients like this all day long, but you couldn't find them. Now people want that peace of mind. They want that reassurance. They want that, and in just about any form. So we are going to be campaigning, using Zomentum, leveraging Zomentum with a new website, new offerings. And I want to have our revenue, our recurring revenue up by 50% again come August 10th. And that date's got its own meaning. But in any case, that's what we're shooting for. We've drawn out the timeline, we've built the strategy, and just time to execute on it.
Yeah. So, and don't forget about CyberGuard 360, because that needs to be part of the action too. Verticalization. It wasn't a theme when we walked in the door today. It wasn't something we were going to talk about. It wasn't a focus item, but Woody's focused on his prosumer group, and he's building his deliverables around that group because Nashville's an interesting market, and he's taking advantage of what he has that other people don't have. Al has moved from the world of being an MSP on a daily basis. He still owns that business, is still kicking off revenue, but he's focused on being a vendor and has learned the single most important thing is, focus on your deliverables and do what you do well, stay vertically focused. And I think we pointed out a number of different ways that you can use CyberGuard. Zomentum, combination of both, and all the tools that are coming out in order to drive additional revenue, drive additional focus on profitability, et cetera, and so on. Everybody who's here, who stayed till the end, really appreciate your time today. For those of you who asked questions in the group, we will get answers out to you very, very shortly. And if you want to get a hold of any of us, I'm Ted at Zomentum.com. Al is A. Alper at CyberGuard360.com. And Woody is Alan at mousecallsonline.com. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate your time and look forward to another of these webinars next month. Again, about focusing on growth with new vendors, new MSPs, and we'll continue the conversation as the years go on. Thank you guys both so much for being here. Really appreciate all the interesting commentary, and I hope the rest of everybody enjoyed their time today. Thanks, guys.